Rochester, so that might give you a little picture of where I am, Stacyville. I'm the fifth of 8 children, and I had 12 years of Catholic education and in our little town of Stacyville. When I graduated from high school, I went on to nursing, and after I graduated from nursing, I entered the Sisters of St. Francis here in Dubuque. So that's where I've been ever since. I used my nursing all of my life. I worked a variety of ministries here in Iowa, in Kansas, Mississippi, and I had a short stint in the Truck Islands in the South Pacific through the Mercy International Health Program. I've worked surgery, nursing home, OB, ER, recovery room. I taught practical nurse students. I did a lot of fifth steps listening when I was at Mercy for the AA program, for the 12-step program. I received a certificate in parish nursing. I spent 8 years in leadership in our congregation. All of my career I have been either like a staff nurse, or I spent a lot of the time in administration as well. I'm just back into Dubuque now about 2.5 years after spending 18 years in Mississippi, where my ministry there was in hospice ministry. And so it's out of that I'm basically speaking tonight. And every place I've been very involved in the parish in music. I've either played or sung or planned or did all of the above. And as I was in Mississippi, I was doing at least 4 services every week, 1 in English, 2 in Spanish, and 1 in Vietnamese. I don't speak Vietnamese. I do speak a lot of Spanish, but I don't speak Vietnamese. But I understand some of it. So, now that I came back to Dubuque, I'm involved in liturgy at Mount St. Francis. So that's a little piece of who I am. And as I talk tonight, I'm going to have some examples, and just to let you know that I've changed the names, but I don't think you'd know them anyway, because most of them, it's from not around here. So anyway, just in case there's any connection. Most of the times then I will be speaking in terms of the fact that I was working as a nurse in whatever category we have been with others. And no matter how we are with others, whether you're as a nurse or a volunteer, visiting or taking communion or whatever, we have to be about the ministry of presence. Maybe it's because I am a nurse, but sometimes I believe to speak of presence, I need to see it as a healing presence. A healing presence is the condition of being consciously and compassionately in the present moment with another or others, believing in and affirming their wholeness wherever they are in life. It's a healing presence. It's a condition of being consciously and compassionately in the present moment with another or with others, believing in and affirming their wholeness wherever they are in life. In order to provide the ministry of presence, one really does not have to have a whole lot of education. Maybe sometimes it's better not to have any, just to be, But what one does need is time. And I'm sure you all know that better than I do. You have to have time. You cannot go into somebody at 1 o'clock, rush in, and in 5 minutes say, well, I gotta go, because that just doesn't play it. Presence begins with just being. All of you know, to be effective in the ministry of presence, time is what's not all of that is needed. I personally believe that the next most important ingredient is you, or about you. And that is, you have to know who you are, and you need to learn how to be open to whatever it is that is happening around you. Just take a look at yourself right now. What has influenced you to be where you are and who you are today? Did it start in your home as you were growing up? As I grew up, I learned so much from my parents. They taught me about faith and gave me many opportunities that would help me to deepen that faith. By watching them, I knew it was important to help others whenever they were in need. I heard from my parents sometimes that others were less fortunate or they didn't receive some of the same gifts we did. So it was necessary to share with them. And again, as you look at yourself, what have the experiences thus far in your life taught you about knowing who you are? Are you really open to your own human uniqueness? You know that you're not always right on every issue and concern that comes around. That I know you know. But it is important to know that your biases and your prejudices you have to be really honest with yourself, especially in ways that you yourself have been wounded in life. It's important to know that your biases and your prejudices may be very different than the one or the ones that you are with at the present time. So how do you handle this? When I first started my work in hospice, I began to have a number of patients who were living with AIDS. I had never really cared for anybody with the diagnosis of AIDS before. And I began to say to myself, why can't I have people just that have cancer or heart problems? You know, those I know what to do with. There are acceptable reasons for people to be in hospice, is what I was saying. And then finally, like an alarm went off within me and said, wait a minute, what are you trying to tell yourself? What kind of bias is that? I had a rude awakening to and for myself. I knew I had to be open to whomever was in my care. And some of these people might need my presence and care as much or maybe even more as the person with cancer or the person with congestive heart failure or whatever. So I began to listen, and these patients began to share so much with me. I remember Zach, who had moved back from Texas so his mother could be his primary caregiver in Mississippi. And one night, 11 o'clock, the phone rang and she said, come. And I said, what's happening? I don't know. He loves you so much. I don't ask any questions. When he says come, you just come. So I went. Well, Zach was dying that night, and he did die that night. And a couple of days later, when the obituary came out, next to the brothers and sisters and about 6 of his male friends in Texas was my name as a survivor. And I thought, oh man, what did that do? What did my biases do? What did I get into? How open what that had done for me. I was so important to this person, I got listed as one of his survivors. We never know. We don't do presence, we are presence. It's as simple as that, but that doesn't make it easy, especially in our world today. To be that presence in ministry means that the person or the persons with whom we meet need to know and to feel a comfort with us. They need to know that they are safe when they are telling their story to us. They need to know that they are a listener that you are a listener who will be non-judgmental. Some years ago, I had an employee come to me before she was leaving work, and she said, I might not be here tomorrow. And so I said, you don't feel well? No, she had just been married a few months, and her husband Paul worked with another man, and they were in and out of town, and anyway, she said, I hate that guy. Not her husband, it was the other guy. And she said, I think when they come get here tonight, I think I'm going to kill him. So I acted not surprised, but I just said, how are you going to do it? I got a gun, I'm all ready, I'm going to do it. And so I said, well, just think about reflect on the fact if you kill, then you'll be in jail and you won't see your husband either. So the next hour, I sat and listened to her, and at the end of that, she said she was ready to go, and I said, and she told me she was going to do it, and I said, before you pull that trigger, I said, would you call me? She promised she would. Well, guess who didn't sleep all night? Me. And she never killed, and her husband got a different job, and today they are a couple that has one of the greatest relationships there is. My whole point in telling that story is that you just never know when you are in the position to allow another person to open themselves to you, to listen, and just take for what they're saying to you, and don't do anything else with it. I ask her basically 2 questions at night. How are you going to do it? And call me. And you won't see your husband. That's about all I said. And so it just leaves you to know. It cleared her soul and her heart that she didn't do it, because I really thought she was going to. We never know. But to me, that's part of the ministry of presence. This presence also calls us to have a space that's sacred between you and the person that you, or the persons that you're with. Maybe we can call this a presence of calmness, or a place that's free of stress. Well, as stress-free as a place can be, I guess. We have so much today in the world that distracts us. We have a hard time learning how to be quiet. We live in a world of clutter. It's a clutter of noise with the TV, the cell phones, the computers, paying attention to everything that goes off and on a smartphone, or you name it. You can name them. So many times as a hospice nurse, I would enter a home or a room only to find and hear the TV blaring. And the first thing I did was say, while I am here, I would like to have the TV turned off so that you can hear me and I can hear you, so that we can know what we're saying. And some people didn't like it, but before long, they knew when I came in, the TV went off. And I think that's important for you too, whatever. Have a quiet space between you so that you can hear. Or you might have just left a situation that's very stress-filled. What's going on in that house, and you're going to another one. There's nothing you can do by bringing that along. So just learn how to take care of yourself. Get all of that stuff out of you. Learn how to take some good deep breaths, clear out your mind, clear out your body before you move on to the next one. And say a prayer for that person you're leaving, and just ask God to be with them, because you can't do anything anyway. You're gone. But there's a whole lot God can do if you tell God about it. So, and then when you enter into the next place, make sure that you have prepared yourself by using their name in prayer before you come in, so that you also know that this is a special person for you while you're coming in. Each one of you will do all of this in a very different way, because each one of you is very different. So there's no 2 ways that are alike. I one time read, and I don't even know who wrote it, but it said there's 3 ways that you can help someone. The first one is to listen. Guess what the second one is? To listen. And the third one is to listen some more. We can't listen often enough or long enough to somebody that really wants to share what's going on within them. Being present with the other can also be shown in how we give honor to them. We need to approach and accompany each of them as people who have dignity and worth. We need to allow them to be in control of themselves with their wishes and their needs as long as they can be. Each one must be treated with and in their own individuality, their own humanness. Know what they like to be called. It's usually not sweetie or honey. Learn if they like to be called Mary or Mrs. Brown, or are they Jack or Mr. Black or whatever. That is a real good way to show respect. Call them what they like to be called. If they want something that doesn't hurt them, then help them to seek it and get it for them. It was about the 3rd week of July, and school was, of course, going to resume in August. The patient, Peggy, was really dying, but she was a grade school teacher, primary grade, and she knew that school couldn't start without her being there. Her children needed her, her principal needed her. I kept saying to her, "You're too sick. You don't have enough strength." "No, I need to be there." So finally, I just said to her, how about if we have the principal come and we'll just talk about it together? So the principal came, and of course the principal and I had a talk before she came in, but the principal said, how about if I would just get a sub for you until you could come back? And then that sub will know when you come, she no longer has a job. It's great. That was a perfect answer for her. She was at ease. The principal left, and all it did was to give her the opportunity to relax. She died the next week before school ever started. But she thought everything was well taken care of because her job was there when she got ready to go back. It was just a little thing, but it made a whole big difference to her. And you also know the scripture reading that says, whatever you give will come back to you 100 times in fold. I believe this is another way of being present. Though you know your presence is indeed a form of ministry, eventually you become aware of what you are receiving because you are spending time with this individual or the family. When you're present with someone, you become more in tune with your own senses. You become more in tune with your own senses. You become more conscious about the parts of your own body as you watch theirs in their time of struggle. As you make yourself more available for others, you become increasingly more available to yourself. You begin to speak your own truth, and the more that you do, the more transparent you become. You ponder, you become more reflective and mindful, and in tune to what this relationship is doing to you and for you. The doorways of some of the ancient hospices in Europe held this motto above their doorways, and it read, "The dying become our teachers." Now I realize that everybody you're with is not dying. I'm coming out of the aspect of being a hospice nurse, but everybody is dying in some way, and whatever their issue is, they are dying in some way. It's a loss for them. Every person you visit or accompany has a lesson to teach you as well. You will learn that death and grief can become seeds for a new life. Love can and will overcome all the barriers that separate heaven and earth. You will discover this because you are experiencing it. You will know this because you will not just see it, you will be living it. You will comprehend in a way that you have not done that before, because all of us stand in the never-ending cycle of creation, the cycle of life and death, and new life that comes and emerges out of death. Within this cycle, the difficult and the painful life experiences, even the worst terrible ones, can herald a transformation in you and in us. In what I've said so far, I've probably talked more about being present with individuals who are able to talk with you. But in reality, I know that there are so many that cannot speak at all, or they have no interest whatsoever. So how can you be present to them? Maybe you just sit there and do nothing else. Maybe every now and then you just give them a little pat, just so that they know that you are there, and that you are caring. Maybe you're playing some soft music for them, or praying aloud with them, using a formal prayer or formal prayers that they might have learned when they were children. It might be just saying the Our Father or the Hail Mary. It could be thanking them for what they have done for so many people in their lifetime. It might be reading a simple story or reading a little poem. Learning from their family and their friends what they might have of insights of their life that you might talk with them about. Or you might take a couple of minutes to read something from the newspaper, a very short article, something that they might be of interest to them. Or maybe you might just even share, you don't want to get into your whole self, but maybe just a little bit about what you did today, and then at the same time say how grateful you really are because, I still can work. Because sometimes people can look at you, be grateful that you can work, because they're just laying there or whatever. Or you might share with them what's happening in the world and just ask that they say some prayers, include their prayers for the better of the world today. So as you continue to minister for your parish in this role, you will find yourself dealing with all kinds of people with a wide variety of struggles. You'll find some with cancer, some with chronic illnesses, all kinds of pain, stress, loss of loved ones through death, separation, divorce, whatever. Abusive relationships, addictions of alcohol and drugs. Just every kind of stress imaginable is what you're going to be dealing with. If this is new for you, but if it's old for you, you know what you deal with. The main thing for you to remember is that you will try to do your very best, because that's all that God expects of us anyway. And if you do this, the people that you will be with will feel and know that they have been accepted for who they are. They will know that they have been listened to, that they have been valued. They will know that they have not been judged. They have been supported and cared for, and that they have not been left alone. They will know that they have been able to know that your heart was one that was filled with the warmth of openness and caring and kindness and compassion. And though they cannot define it, they will know that you have believed in them, that you have affirmed them in their wholeness, no matter at what point they are in their life. This is what the ministry of presence is about. In a few days, we will be entering into the holiest of the weeks of the year. And so I want to close with a few words that were written by Irene Noel, a Benedictine sister from Atchison, Kansas, and I quote, "Today we are challenged not only to love God with our whole heart and soul, but also to love whatever person comes into our lives. Admit it, not every person we encounter inspires warmth and gracious love. But the gospel is clear. This command allows for no exceptions. Today, if you hear God's voice calling you to love, how will you respond?" Thank you.